I never imagined that one day, I would be the villain in my own love story. When I married Ethan, I thought I was walking into the kind of love that novels are written about, unconditional, fiery, and everlasting. We were that couple everyone admired. He was calm, patient, and responsible, the kind of man who made everyone around him feel safe. And I was the dreamer, always chasing emotions, always wanting more than what was in front of me. Maybe that's where everything started to go wrong. My name is Rachel Miller, and this is the story of how I married a man I truly loved, but still managed to destroy everything because I couldn't control the hunger for something more, something that I thought was love but turned out to be nothing but illusion. When Ethan and I got married, we were both in our early 30s. We met through mutual friends at a charity event in Seattle. I was working as a marketing consultant, and Ethan was a software engineer. From the moment I met him, his sincerity caught my attention. He wasn't flashy, he didn't try to impress me with fancy words or money, he simply made me feel seen. For a long time, I had been in relationships where I felt like a convenience or an accessory. But Ethan listened, remembered the little things, and treated me as an equal. Our relationship moved fast. Within a year, we were engaged. The wedding was simple, beautiful, and full of laughter. I thought I was stepping into forever. But marriage, I would later learn, isn't just built on love. It's built on patience, consistency, and sacrifice. And I wasn't ready for that. The first few years were blissful. We traveled together, built our dream home, and talked about starting a family. But life, as it often does, began to weigh us down. Ethan's job became demanding. He would come home late, exhausted, and barely had time for long conversations. I felt like I was losing him little by little, even though he was right there beside me. I started spending more time on social media, reconnecting with old friends, searching for that emotional spark I thought I had lost. That's when I reconnected with Lucas Parker, my college boyfriend. Lucas had been my first love, the kind of wild, spontaneous love that burns bright but doesn't last. He was charming, adventurous, and reckless, everything Ethan wasn't. We hadn't spoken in years, but one day, out of nowhere, he sent me a message. "Hey Rachel, saw your post about your anniversary. You still look amazing." I should have ignored it. I should have blocked him and moved on. But I didn't. I replied. Our conversations started innocently, small talk, memories, laughter. But slowly, they became deeper, more emotional. He told me he regretted how things ended between us, that he still thought about me sometimes. I told myself it was harmless, just two old friends catching up. But deep down, I knew I was walking on dangerous ground. Ethan noticed the change in me. He asked why I was always smiling at my phone, why I seemed distant. I told him it was just work. He trusted me completely, and that trust was the very thing I was betraying. After a few weeks, Lucas and I decided to meet, just for coffee. That coffee turned into dinner. That dinner turned into late-night drives. And those drives turned into something far worse, emotional infidelity, disguised under the lie of, "We're just reconnecting." But the guilt began eating me alive. I didn't want to be the kind of woman who cheated. I tried to convince myself that what I was doing wasn't wrong because I wasn't, technically, being unfaithful, I wasn't crossing that physical line. But I was already gone emotionally. Then, Lucas proposed something outrageous. He told me there was a way for us to be together without cheating. He mentioned an idea that I had never even heard of before, something about an open marriage agreement. According to him, some couples legally agreed to see other people, under mutual understanding. He told me that if Ethan and I both agreed, it wouldn't even be considered infidelity, it would be freedom. It sounded absurd at first, but the idea planted a seed in my mind. The thought of being able to have both, the stability of Ethan and the excitement of Lucas, became intoxicating. I convinced myself that maybe I could make it work, that maybe I could rewrite the rules of love. When I finally brought the idea up to Ethan, I masked it under the pretense of modern relationship theory. I said, maybe we should try something different, something honest. Some people say open marriages make their bond stronger. The look on his face that day will haunt me forever. He stared at me like he didn't recognize me. Then he simply said, "Rachel, marriage isn't a contract for convenience. It's a promise. If you want to love someone else, don't call it marriage." But I didn't stop. I argued, manipulated, and rationalized. I told him it would prevent resentment, that it was better to be open than to lie. He resisted at first, but my persistence wore him down. Reluctantly, he agreed. not because he wanted to, but because he loved me enough to try to understand me. That's how I ended up marrying to legally cheat, all under the illusion of freedom. Once the agreement was in place, I dove headfirst into my connection with Lucas. It felt thrilling at first, sneaking away, meeting him, feeling wanted again. But with every passing day, the guilt grew heavier. Ethan stopped asking where I was going. He stopped waiting up for me. He stopped trying. And when I looked at him, I saw nothing but quiet pain, the kind that doesn't scream but suffocates silently. One night, I came home late, and Ethan was sitting on the couch, staring at our wedding photo. Without looking at me, he said, "You got what you wanted, Rachel. I'm done." He told me he was filing for separation. He said he couldn't live like this anymore, that he still loved me, but love wasn't enough to fix what I had broken. I tried to beg, to explain that I was confused, that I thought I was doing the right thing by being honest. But he just shook his head. When I went to Lucas for comfort, I expected support, but instead, he pulled away. He said he didn't want to be responsible for ruining my marriage, that he never wanted something serious. In that moment, I realized how foolish I had been. Lucas never wanted me, he wanted the thrill of forbidden love. Within weeks, I lost everything, my husband, my home, and my sense of self. Ethan moved out, and the silence in our house became unbearable. My friends judged me, my family was disappointed, and Lucas vanished completely. Months passed, and I was left alone with my thoughts. The guilt was unbearable. I went to therapy, trying to understand why I had risked everything for something so empty. My therapist told me something that stayed with me: "You weren't craving another man, Rachel. You were craving validation. You thought being desired meant being loved." She was right. I had confused excitement with affection, attention with love. Slowly, I began rebuilding myself. I got involved in volunteer work, helping women who went through marital crises and emotional trauma. Every story I heard reminded me of my own mistakes, and how easily we destroy what's real chasing after illusions. A year later, I met Ethan by accident at a local bookstore. He looked peaceful, stronger, happier. I hesitated, unsure if I should approach him. But when he saw me, he smiled politely. We talked briefly, about life, about growth, about forgiveness. I apologized, genuinely, for everything. I told him I finally understood what love meant, and that I was sorry it took losing him to realize it. He nodded and said, "I forgive you, Rachel. I hope you forgive yourself too." That night, I cried for hours, not out of regret for losing him, but out of gratitude that he was kind enough to let me go without hate. Today, I live alone in a small apartment, still wearing the lessons of my past like invisible scars. I tell my story to warn others that love isn't about ownership or freedom, it's about respect, trust, and the courage to stay loyal when temptation whispers otherwise. I married to legally cheat, thinking I had found a loophole in love. But love isn't a contract to rewrite, it's a promise to honor. And once you break it, no legal paper can ever mend the heart you've shattered. I lost my husband, I lost my dignity, but I found something even more important: the truth about myself. And that truth set me free, even if it came at the cost of everything I once held dear. Because sometimes, the greatest betrayal isn't what you do to someone else, it's what you do to yourself when you stop valuing the love that was once pure and true.